Our guest tonight has literally been a part of everything on the upswing of UCF since 2017, and he finally his eligibility has come in. But we're glad to grab him for one final time here to talk about his career at UCF. Austin Camden, UCF defensive lineman, on the show with us tonight. Austin, first off, thanks for taking the time and joining us on the Sons of UCF.
I appreciate y'all reaching out to me and bringing me on the podcast. In general,
looking forward to chatting with you tonight. So let's start here. I read that you originally were committed to FAU and then had a change of heart and decided to come to UCF. Why was UCF the right place for you?
Okay, so a little bit of background on that story. Actually, I was originally committed to FAU. Correct. When they fired Coach Partridge, my scholarship got taken away from me. So
okay.
I publicly said I'm gonna decommit, but realistically, I didn't have the opportunity to even sign or even go to FAU. But UCF was just the next closest thing. I kind of did it on a whim. Wasn't sure really what was going to happen. Asked my coach to reach out to the coaches at UCF. He reached out to Coach Becton. Coach Becton called me within 2-3 weeks of me applying to UCF and said, "Hey, do you want to walk onto the team? You put that in your admissions essay." And I said, yes, I 100% want to walk onto the team. Whatever you need, I do not care. I just want to be able to go and help.
What about the school did you like? Obviously, you said it was close to you, but was there something specific about the football program? Obviously, Scott Frost had been there for about a year at that point in time. Anything specifically about the program that kind of drew you to UCF?
I really wanted to be able to play in front of my family to where they didn't have to actually like travel that far. I've been to a couple UCF games as when I was in middle school and high school. Never thought I'd be able to play in front of a crowd, but I said, if I'm going to walk on and I get to play, I'm going to be able to play in front of my family and friends and they don't have to go anywhere. So I was ready to make an impact where I could, realistically.
Well, that first season, 2017, you were on the scout team. So, Austin, what's the life of a scout team member? What is that life like week in and week out? Obviously, every Saturday we see guys suiting up and playing. Scout team, obviously, a little different. What's the scout team life like?
It's a lot of hard work, honestly. You basically have the same program as the older guys who have been there for seasons upon seasons, and they're the ones starting in their jobs. But you're in at 7:00, just like they are, going through meetings, learning everything you possibly can about, especially when I was on scout team offense, I was learning everything I could about the other team's offense that I maybe saw on film and be like, okay, well, I'm going to do this in practice the way they're doing it. That way, if our defensive guys catch on to something really quick, they're going to see it in a game and be like, oh, hey, they're running this play. Get here like we did in practice. So it's a grind and a struggle, to say the least.
That first year is an incredible year to join the program. We're undefeated, and we going into the Peach Bowl, perfect season on the line, and all the coaches are leaving. How weird is that going into that final game of the year?
It was the absolute weirdest time to be a student athlete, 100%. In fact, a little story that I don't think a lot of people know about is I think it was that first day that all the coaches were back and we were supposed to go. I believe the schedule said we were supposed to go full pads. Shaquem, Pitt, and a couple other guys went, no, it's a Thursday practice. We're going no sweat Thursday. What do you think we're doing? No, we're not going full pads. So we all showed up in helmets in our little practice pants and our practice jerseys. And Coach Frost ripped us a new one. And we practiced the entire practice like we would normally, except really no music, not a lot of fun. Everything was all business and serious. And then at the end of practice, he ran us. We had like 5 full gassers, and by number 3, we were all tired, to say the least. But he talked to us after that practice and was like, "Hey, I came here from a flight that didn't get in till 6:00 this morning. Like, I flew overnight to see you guys, to coach you guys." And then after that, we knew, okay, actually, he's not leaving just for himself and some money. He's leaving because he thinks it's the best decision, but he loves us, and we're going to fight for him. And I think after that, it solidified our run to the Peach Bowl and the victory in our minds already.
When he's telling you guys to run those gassers, how many of you were like, screw you, dude, you're not even going to be here next year. You're not my boss anymore.
I think a lot of us, a decent amount, were thinking that in our heads, but ultimately we were like, we got to get through this because he's still our coach.
Right. So when a new coaching staff is coming in, what effect does that have on you? What are you trying to do to prepare yourself for the new staff, not knowing who it's even going to be?
So it's kind of weird because you can't really, even if like one of your coaches has a good word about you and says it to the new coach could come in and be like, I don't believe what he said. So I just kind of, went through practice in the Peach Bowl, just completely like any other practice that season, had a lot of fun, ran what I could, worked my tail off. And then as soon as the new coaches came in, I was like, okay, I'm making a good impression now. I'm working my tail off. And that's a continual thing I did all 5 years. Put my head down to the grindstone and just start working.
Well, you saw the field for the first time as a player in that 2018 season. So obviously that hard work paid off. No more scout team for you. What was your emotions like that first time? Were you nervous? Were you anxious? Were you just excited? What was the first time you got to run onto the field at the bounce house?
That was something else, honestly. That first time I actually got to see the field during a game, it was South Carolina State. I didn't think I was going to get in at all. But I kind of had a talk with Coach Burnham earlier the week, and I said, hey, my grandfather's going to be watching. It's his birthday. And he was really sick at the time, and we didn't know from what, so we weren't sure what was going to happen. So I said, hey, Coach Burnham, if at all, can I get like 1 or 2 plays? I don't really care where it is. I just want to say I got to play and my grandfather got to watch. So he said, hey, warm up. It was like the second quarter. And I was like, I'm not going to get in. Third quarter came and he's like, you warm? I'm like, yeah, stay by my side. I was like, okay. Then fourth quarter came ultimately, and he said, okay, go in. I was like, what? Like out of the blue. Like first, like we had just like I think we kicked off, and he said, okay, you ready? I'm like, what? Go. I'm like, okay. Just after I said what, I just ran on the field. Say the least, I was nervous because I didn't know what was going to happen. I'd studied my plays all week, studied the film all week. Was like, I got this when I can go in and will go in. And then the first play happened, and that was kind of fun to say the least, except for the fact that I tackled the wrong guy. So I think we were lined up in like a field defense, so where the 3 technique was toward the field, and I took the couple hard steps I needed to get off the ball. Parted like the Red Sea. I grabbed the running back because it was one of those like triple option plays. They're supposed to read me and then, go from there. I grabbed the running back. It didn't feel like he had the ball, so I threw him to my side, grabbed the quarterback. I'm like, something's wrong here. I turn around. I think it was Nate Evans behind me making the play, and I went, dang it. And I was like, I was happy that I got to play, but I was kind of disappointed I didn't make a play my first time. But it's easily a mix of emotions playing in front of the bounce house like it is. The amount of noise is absolutely crazy, and I can't figure out another place that would be better to play at.
Well, that whole season, obviously. I mean, 2017, we go undefeated. 2018, regular season, obviously, we're undefeated. And so we're heading into the end of 2018, the Fiesta Bowl. Obviously, a winning streak on the line. Was that season fun for you guys? And I don't mean like in the sense that I know football is fun to play, right? But all the pressure on it, everybody's asking about the streak, about what's going to happen. Obviously, McKenzie gets hurt, a great comeback in the championship game, heading to the Fiesta Bowl. Did you guys have fun that year? Or was there a lot of pressure to try to continue the winning streak?
I don't think we weren't really too worried about I guess you call it the streak. We just wanted to win every game possible because we were very competitive to say the least. Like even like position groups and then defense and offense, we were competing against each other 24/7 to get ourselves an edge over anyone else. We're like, the only team that can beat us is us. So we're going to go out and prove that.
All right, so you mentioned the atmosphere of the bounce house. Which games really stick out in your mind? I know there's a few of them, especially during 2017, 2018, even this past year. But any big games stick out to you as the craziest atmosphere games?
Yeah, 100%. 2018 Cincinnati College game day. That was at the bounce house. You can't get any better than that in my mind. What was it, like the first 4 like snaps on Cincinnati? Delay of game, false start, delay of game again, or something like that. It took them 4 times to get 1 snap off to start the game, like that. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of games where you can tell the commentators are like, what is going on? They can see the camera bouncing up and down because people are just absolutely losing their minds. And that feeling is just infectious, 100%. There's no other stadium in Florida that could do that.
Now, you guys are not allowed to, I mean, you're not staying on campus that day, right? So you have no idea what it's like at 6 o'clock in the morning on campus, or you get to even watch game day that day or no?
No, I mean, we got to see a little bit of it. So in like the way meetings work on game day, like we'll be at the team hotel, we'll get breakfast, do like walkthroughs and walk through a meeting, and then they'll give us a little bit of free time. In my free time, I was watching College game day, just because I was like, I want to see what this is. And you could just see Memory Mall was just a sea of UCF, and then like a whole bunch of other people who were coming by to hold up signs, and it was absolutely crazy. Kind of wish I was there, but I was with the team, so I can't say anything else after that.
All right, so that season was another awesome one. We lose at the end. Then we go into 2019, coming off 2 years where we were undefeated in the regular season, and we have a few really tough losses. Which one of those losses hurt you the most? Was it the Pittsburgh one? Was it Cincinnati? Was it Tulsa? Take us through some of those games.
So Pitt kind of hurt me because it was like, I think it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 5, whatever it was. And then we had a defensive lineman jump off sides. So that hurt a lot because it's like, it's a guy in your position group that you have a whole bunch of trust in. All of a sudden, it's like one play can cause a game to go south. And unfortunately, it was us that one play. That one stung. Cincy didn't really, and then Tulsa also stung pretty hard too. And all those games we lost by a combined total of 7 points, which is just that overall hurt more than probably anything that entire season.
Well, 2020 didn't get any easier for you, Austin. So we start off with a quick little global pandemic to start off 2020. We've had a few guys on last season, and we had Marlon and Greg and a bunch of those guys, Trey Nixon, kind of talking through the challenges that they face kind of going through a pandemic, obviously trying to get ready for football season, not really knowing if you're going to play. Obviously, some guys, kind of playing and opting out at the last minute. What was that like for you? Take us through kind of that early 2020 year and how you were staying in shape and sort of what your thoughts were preparing for a season, not knowing if you'd ever really have a season.
So really to stay in shape, I was actually working the entirety of college. I've actually worked at Publix by my parents' house in the back room doing a lot of grocery work. So hauling pallets, putting stuff on carts, bringing it out in shelves. So I was keeping in shape with weightlifting that way generally. And then I was running outside of that just to keep a little bit of cardio going because I didn't know what was going to happen. We had that quote unquote 2-week break off in March because we didn't know how spring break was going to end. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, you're not coming back for the rest of school. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. And it became to a point where I'm just like, what is going to happen? But I got in the mindset, okay, stay ready. That way you don't have to get ready. So I was doing everything I could outside of, actually being able to go to a gym just to stay in shape. And then we finally get the call, hey, we're going to start bringing people back in beginning of June. Okay. Middle of June, beginning of July, mid-July. And they start rolling people back periodically. And unfortunately, I was in the last group, so that it was kind of sucky, but I got through it. And then we're like 3 days out from camp, and we have a team meeting. They kind of go through like, hey, this is how we're gonna have meetings and stuff, blah blah blah. Oh, hey, by the way, all the athletes stay on the Zoom call. We got Greg wants to talk to you real quick. And know it myself, when we signed a whole bunch of the forms to come back, I didn't know there was a liability release form from the school saying, hey, if you catch COVID, it's not our fault. But that's how it was just to even come back on campus. Then they sent us that form out after Greg brought it up, like, hey, this isn't okay. Like, the only reason that we'd ever catch COVID was if we came back to campus. And the only reason we'd come back to campus is them. So if they're not looking out for us, why should we even play? And that was the whole, like, I think a couple ESPN articles were like, oh, UCF is like doing a full team mutiny on that. But we were like realistically concerned about our own health because we didn't know what we still really don't know what the long-term implications of catching COVID down the road are. Like, could catch COVID now, and in 20 years, something happens that was COVID related that you have no idea about. And that's what we were worried about because we didn't know a lot. And then they brought a lot of the doctors from Orlando Health on to help us out, to help us understand what was going on and what the precautions were and how they were trying to get us to a point where we could play and not have to really worry about COVID. So that was just crazy to begin with, even before fall camp started. COVID derailed a whole season, and that was just not the fun year of 2020, to say the least.
Yeah, much was made. UCF was one of the leaders in the nation that year with opt-outs. I think there was 10 guys who opted not to play. Do you think some of the things you guys were talking about led to some of those guys making decisions to maybe sit out the year?
No, I knew. I mean, partially yes, but partially no. One of the guys who really opted out, Tay Gowan, cornerback. Who, shoot, does he? My brain is.
He's with the Eagles now.
Okay, I wasn't he? He was with another team before.
Yeah, he was with Arizona. He got traded to Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah.
Season, yeah.
Well, I don't know if he mentioned it, but I found out he was opting out, and I shot him a message. I'm pretty sure I shot him a message. I'm like, hey, man, you do what's best for you and your daughter. I know you care about her 100%. Make sure your family is safe. I am not going to complain. You are my brother, and I will support you 100%. And those guys who, did opt out, I try to message them as much as I could going, hey, I'm here to support you. Let me know what I can do. You're making the best decision for yourself and your health. Me, I was just like, I want to play, and this might be my only opportunity to play in multiple games in a season. So I full-fledged went into it no matter what. And it was, guys make the best decision for themselves, especially in the case of opt-outs. And I don't think it really hurt us. They were just making the best option for their future and their families. So.
Well, that whole season, obviously, you talk about COVID, but there was a lot of ups and downs on the field as well. A close loss to Memphis, a loss to Cincy and Tulsa again. And then towards the end of the season, a bunch of guys got kicked off the team for some stuff, outside of football. You were at that point an upperclassman of the team. You're a third-year guy in the program. What were you and the other leaders trying to do to keep the team together? Obviously, just a lot of turmoil. Take us kind of in your mind as a leader. What were you trying to do to make sure everyone kind of stood together and tried to finish strong?
I think at the point where a couple of the guys got in trouble and let go from the team, we kind of lost our identity right there of who we were as players and, who we were as a team. And then Greg really led the charge to bring us all back together and focus up saying, hey, we've got a couple more games left. Let's play for each other. Let's get this gone. Let's send the seniors out the best way we can. And, we tried our best with what we had left.
Yeah, I mean, some of those losses were still close. You mentioned the year before, a total of 7 points with 3 losses. 2020, a bunch of close games too. But then we get to the Boca Bowl. What the heck happened in the Boca Bowl? That was just a disaster.
I think at that point, some of the guys especially were like, hey, some of these schools are opting out. Why don't we opt out? Nobody really brought it up. I was probably the team was kind of split, to say the least. Guys wanted to go home and see their families because they hadn't seen them in over 6 months. Some of the guys who were first coming back in June hadn't seen their families. Some of their family members had gotten COVID and gotten like really sick, and some of the family members had passed away, and relatives had passed away, and friends that we knew had passed away because of COVID. And I think everyone just wanted to go home and see their family. Like a lot of people wanted to go home and see their families. I was probably one of the only couple guys that were like, hey, I really want to play. So let's try to work our tail off just so that way we don't get stomped on. And that didn't really work out too well.
All right. So after that season's over, you're getting ready for the next season. And out of nowhere, really, the news breaks that Heupel is leaving. He's going to Tennessee. When did you get the news? When did you hear about it? Wasn't there a team meeting or something the day before, the day of? How did that whole thing go?
So what a lot of people don't know is after 2020, I wanted to walk away from football. I didn't know where my mind was in general. Like if I wanted to continue and play a fifth year with a team or try to transfer to somewhere else. But I knew at that moment I just wanted to help the team the best way I knew how. And so I became a strength and conditioning intern with Coach Schmidt and Coach Young just to, help the guys through their off-season weightlifting program and kind of see where I wanted to be because I graduated in the spring of 2021. So I just only had a couple months left. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. The day that happened, the night before they had a team meeting on Zoom, from what I'm told, and Coach Heupel kind of preached, hey, we're together, we're a family. Let's get this, like a lot of like team bonding, team unity. We'll get this. Let's start working now and work our tail off. And then they had an emergency meeting in the morning or some sort of meeting Wednesday morning. And one of the guys put in the Zoom chat, when were you going to tell us you were going to Tennessee? And it was like, what? Then they had an emergency meeting at I think that the meeting on Zoom was at 7:30. The emergency meeting happened at 8. And by 8:10, everything for the rest of the week was canceled because nobody had any idea what was going on. To say the least, it shocked everyone, and we felt betrayed, ultimately.
Did you guys ever have a chance to talk to Heupel after that, or one-on-one or anything?
I don't. After the team meeting, he literally left, and they had somebody else clean out his office, I believe. He was just said, hey, I think he just basically said, hey, I'm doing this for the best interest of my family. Wish you guys luck, and then left.
All right. So the administration at the time, they're going to hire a new coach. They can't waste too much time. But there was talks, maybe they were talking to some of the players. Did they ever sit down with you or anybody that you know of? Did they discuss what kind of direction you guys wanted to go in?
I believe when the university ended up hiring Terry, our AD, which it's funny, he prefers everyone to call him Terry because he likes a one-on-one basis. He's probably the best AD in the country, 100% on that. But I think he did talk to a couple guys about hey, what are you looking for in a coach? I think names got thrown around. I personally was not part of that. So I can't speak on that, unfortunately. But, Terry ended up then hiring someone he knew, which is Coach Malzahn, someone he had worked with at Arkansas State and literally was ready to get going. And it was very much a surprise to me that Coach Malzahn ended up coming to UCF, to say the least.
Yeah, what was your reaction when news is breaking? Obviously, Gus Malzahn's coming in. Were you kind of concerned? Obviously, you don't know what he's going to do. I mean, as a defensive guy, Randy Shannon was there still as an interim coach. Obviously, you wonder what that relationship like. So was that exciting? Were you kind of confused or kind of nervous about what the future was?
Well, again, at the time, I was a strength staff intern. So Coach Malzahn was there a couple weeks, and I got to see how the guys, the spark that a lot of guys didn't have was ignited. And they were ready to work no matter what. And that made me want to come back. But yeah, I was very confused on what was going on and how a whole defensive system was going to set in. But ultimately, when I was able to come back on the team, when Coach Malzahn let me, I was ready to get going and hit the ground running, because that was he brought a confidence and a swagger that I hadn't seen since Coach Frost. So I was really ready to get it going, to say the least.
What was your first impressions of meeting T. Will? He looks like a guy who's got like an IV drip of Red Bull going at all times, pretty high energy. What was your first impression when you got a chance to meet T. Will?
When I got to meet Coach T. Will, it was basically more of a one-on-one scenario of me asking him to come back. Me asking him permission to come back onto the team and play on his defense. He didn't really know much about me, but he was like, "Do you want to work? Yes. Are you ready to work? Yes. Okay. We'll see you tomorrow for the 6 a.m. run, and you better be coming to work." He was all about, it's a bottom line business, and I got to see you work to make sure you can back up what you say. But yes, very high energy, but that's what makes him a really fun coach to be around.
How'd you do with those runs? Did you have a good stamina the next day?
Yeah, I actually did. It's probably because my legs were fresh comparatively to a couple of my other D linemen. They started calling me Captain America because I would run and run and run until at the end of the workout, I was either like huffing and puffing or I was thrown up, because all I did was I literally would just run as hard as I could, no matter what the amount was. And it was bad for me sometimes, but it was ultimately, it showed like, hey, I'm willing to work until I puke. And then if I have to puke and rally, I'll puke and rally.
What would you say the biggest differences in the styles of the defense from T. Will to Randy Shannon?
Styles of the defense. That's a really good question. I'm not going to lie. I've never really thought about it that way. At least from the defensive line perspective, it's not too different. The technique may be a little bit different here and there, but the overall idea for the defensive line was pretty much still the same. We were supposed to attack the line, engage, find our target, and then go from there. And then the blitzes weren't too complicated. Everything was pretty cut and dry. The only people who really had to worry about stuff were linebackers, because they're the ones who had to make sure, the safeties and the corners were set in the way they needed to be, and also they were set ready to run or go to the pass as soon as possible.
What about the differences in styles of practice between Malzahn and Heupel? I'm picturing Heupel just being basically a conditioning practice, running up and down the field. Or are they pretty similar in the meetings and things like that?
So you're not wrong on that. Coach Heupel, I would generally say our practices were about 26, 27 periods long. And there was no kind of small breaks in between to get water. Your rest break was your time in between your drills. So you could do a footwork drill real quick, get to the back of the line. You had maybe 20 seconds or so to get water before you're up there again. And then Coach Malzahn was more structured. Like, everyone's on the same structure. It was clearly obvious what period we were on and what we were doing, because the buzzer would start and the period would sound. This is what we're doing. Go. And we were lucky enough, because we would work our tail off for the first 10 periods, have a minute and a half water break real quick, get back to it. And then right before we would do team crossover stuff, we'd also have another minute and a half to 2 minute break before we actually competed against each other on the team scale. So a lot more rest time and time to recover and think about what we were doing, rather than with Coach Heupel.
Minute and a half doesn't even seem like that long, though. I mean, I guess when you compare it to 2 seconds.
You'd be very surprised, to say the least. Once everyone gets to the little designated quote unquote rest area, they'll start the period, play a little bit of music, and about 45 seconds in, you're like, okay, are we going on? Are we going to be here much longer? And then by that minute and a half, you're like, okay, that was way too long, almost. Because just the way we were ready to work, say late, to speak on that.
Austin, coming into that season, we talked a lot on our show about how we thought the defensive line was going to be really the strength of the unit, right? Obviously, you have yourself, you have Cam Good, you have Josh Telescar, Trayvon Moore-Sprash, you brought in Barber and Big Cat as transfers, Keenan Hester, young guys. It seemed like you guys had a ton of depth and a ton of talent on that D-line. Did you guys think that as well coming in? Did you look at your fellow D-line mates and say, man, this is going to be the best unit we've had, or maybe the best unit you've been a part of at your time at UCF?
Yeah, we were talking about that in the spring when we all came back at the end. We're like, this is going to shape up to be a really good D line. We hadn't met Big Cat just yet, but we had the opportunity to work with him in the summer, and we're like, this is going to be a crazy D line. And we all knew as soon as we got the system down, like, oh, we have a really good opportunity to be the best in the country. And for individual performance, some of us were really like outshined. Like Keenan Hester, amazing in my mind, amazing breakout season for him. KD, unfortunately, his season ended a little too soon for my liking, but he still had like a really good solid season. Cam Good.
Is he the fastest D lineman? He seems like he's fast. I don't know. I have no idea why. I watch him play, and I feel like he's always running. Is he fast, or is that like deceptive?
So Cam is quick. He's agile. Off the ball, he is quick. But now you tell him to run 50 yards in one direction straight. I don't know if he's the fastest guy we got. But he is off the ball. I think honestly it's him and Anthony Montalvo are probably the two quickest off the ball. When they have their feet set the way they want to, they're the two of the fastest guys we have off the ball. Keenan Hester is one of the most powerful guys we have off the ball. Same with Ricky. Ricky Barber's got this, I call it old man strength, even though he's younger than me. He just it's just this strength that he can just come off the ball, jack somebody up, and then go to the net, and then rip off and make the tackle. But they got a really good set of returning guys this next year. So I'm looking forward to see what my brothers can do, and I will be cheering them on the best way I know possible.
Well, like I said, you guys worked all summer long, and then the opening day is finally here, Austin. We're all excited. Boise State, Thursday night, primetime game. Everybody's just jacked up, can't wait. And then, boom, 3-hour delay. Lightning, storms, everything. What the heck are you guys doing in those 3 hours? Are you guys practicing? Are you sleeping? Take us in the locker room while you guys are just waiting for that damn thunder to stop and that lightning.
We had a pregame. What we would do is we'd go out, we'd do a walk of the field, and then at the 50-yard line we do a prayer, and then we'd go inside, and then groups would slowly go out to warm up, and I'd just gotten tapes, got my cleats on, was about to go out, and they said, hey, lightning delay, go back inside. I was like, okay, cool. And then it just kept happening, and at one point we were all ready to throw we all had our shoulder pads on, ready to go out. And they said, hey, another lightning delay. It's probably going to be like an hour. I took my pads off. I took my shoulder pads off. I used them as like a pillow or a cushion just to lay on the ground a little bit, listen to some music, talk about different schemes with Montalvo and see what was the best option that we could for Boise to, make sure we had our hand placement right and ready to go. And then just kept going. And at one point, all of our guys were like, yeah, let's listen to music. Let's just kind of hang out, take a nap, still try to be locked in as much as we can. And then we finally got going, and then we were all ready to go because that was annoying.
Well, Mike and I are proud to say we were one of the, I don't know how many people ended up there, but we were there till 1:24 in the morning watching that victory. And for those people who were there, I mean, it was such a cool atmosphere because it was, it was a small crowd. Everybody had been waiting for tailgating for like hours and hours and hours. So everyone was all hyped up. What was that atmosphere like that night? I know in the crowd, we were all yelling and screaming and cheering because it was such a small number. But for you guys on the field, how much did the crowd help you guys that night? How much was that atmosphere just so unique just based on all the circumstances?
All the circumstances, it almost seemed like it was another 2020 season with the amount of people who were in the stands, but we still fed off that energy because everyone who was in the stands brought a whole bunch of energy that we then fed off of. And also we were kind of pissed off to say the least, even though we can't control the weather. And we're like, we're going to make these guys feel it.
Yeah.
Well, they made us feel it 21-0 to start that game. They gave us an extra 3 hours of drinking time. I wasn't complaining. So while you were taking a nap on your shoulder pads, I was down in some cervezas.
Yeah, you sure was.
But let's get to the Louisville game a couple weeks later.
Ooh.
Back and forth, down to the very end. So many injuries in that game. Have you ever seen a game where that many of your guys get hurt in once?
No, I have actually never been a part of a game like that, and that was definitely hard to see and hard to watch. I think Ricky went down first quarter in that game. Then we had Jeremiah go down with, I believe, a concussion. Corey Thornton go down with, I believe, a concussion, and then I think Justin went down, or one of our other defensive guys. That was just hard to be a part of, because I don't like when my teammates get hurt, and that just hurt completely.
Yeah, that was a rough one. And I think even harder was the Navy game after that. Now, that's a game that it still drives me nuts. I know you're rolling your eyes at that one. But that's a team, you know what they're going to do. You guys are preparing for their running all week, and they're still able to do it to us. Take us through that whole disaster of a game.
Yeah, disaster of a game is right when you say that there, Mike. But we knew what they were going to do. Yeah, Navy's always won the triple option. We prepared for it the best way we could. The discipline that they had on their special teams was absolutely crazy. And I think that's what the turning point of the game was. That first punt that was blocked. And we might have been in a lull up to that point and went, holy crap, we might lose at one point. And we tried to fight back as best we could. With it being Mikey's first game at a level like that, I know it was hard on him. And there was a lot of pressure on him from a lot of other teammates. Hey, make sure you get your stuff right. And I don't think we should have done that to him, especially on a game that, again, was his first actual start in college. It was just, as a player's perspective, that was just the hard game to be a part of.
You mentioned pressure. You mentioned pressure on Mikey going into that game. Was there just a lot of pressure from the team, kind of giving him pointers? Do you think just a lot being thrown at him, a lot of guys in his ear trying to tell him different things?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of guys trying to tell him different things, and I think there was a little bit of nervousness from him. At every level that you play at, especially in football, of course it gets more competitive, but your first actual snap and first actual game of a season, those nerves are really, really not the best to play around with, especially when you're coming there and everyone expects you to absolutely blow people out, which I think a lot of people were easily expecting us to do that. But we lulled ourselves into a sleep coming into that game, I believe, because we just partially, some of us thought like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk, and it turned into a fist fight real quick.
Well, tell us a bit more about Mikey. Obviously, we see him limited in front of the media. Always looks very poised, very, very polished. Looks like he's, a confident kid. Behind the scenes, you saw him obviously grow throughout the season. Where did you see him sort of make the most growth? Where did you see him really kind of improve from that Navy game all the way through the end of the Gasparilla Bowl?
I think he honestly improved on his leadership skills in the locker room a lot.
Well, touch on that for a second. How tough is that? He's a true freshman, right? I mean, some of you guys are grown ass men, right? He's a true freshman, fresh off the hacienda in Arizona, and he's just in here like trying to lead you guys. How hard is that? On paper, it's like, oh, no big deal, but that's got to be super tough to ask an 18-year-old kid to do.
Yeah, to be thrust in a situation like that is hard, no matter, a quote unquote a brand new group of guys that you've really only been working with for the past. If some guys didn't come till summer, 3-4 months, and expected them to be like, you expect them to lead is just hard to do, especially on a guy who's 18 who doesn't really know how he fits in a leadership quality. but we had a lot of guys supporting him. Our offensive line was like, hey, we've got your back. Let us know what we can do. You're now one of the leaders, even if you don't want to be. And I think that they really helped him out a lot. And then everyone just kind of circled around him and just kind of like was like, hey, we'll support you. We're behind you. Lead this team the way you can. And I think that really helped him, and he really grew in that role throughout the season.
Well, despite all the injuries, and you went through a bunch of them, even on offense, right? Bowser and Jalen both get hurt. We had some really nice wins. We put out some nice wins against ECU, Tulane, Temple, Memphis, largely due to the defense. I mean, you guys were definitely on point, particularly in that back half of the season. Was there something that just clicked, you think, for the group? Did something that really just kind of hit home, and all of a sudden you guys took off as a defense?
I want to say yes. There's a certain point, especially after Navy, that we're like, what are we doing? We were making simple mistakes that we shouldn't have been making. And we had like I don't want to say a come to Jesus moment, but it's what it basically was. And we realized like we are way better than we were in past years. We need to get this thing going. And it really started with Coach Martin, our defensive tackles coach, helping us find the little things that we could improve on. And then we started working on them in practice. And then that just started compounding on each other every day. And once we got better, the linebackers saw, oh, we need to get better. The DB saw that everyone else was getting better. They needed to get better. It was at a certain point where just everything kind of just fit into place where we needed to mentally. And then we started really having a whole bunch of fun.
The final game of the regular season, we beat the Cows, South Florida, 5 times in a row. Not too many people. How many fifth-year seniors like yourself has 5-0 against the Cows? That's never been done before. How important was that game to you?
Honestly, that game was important because the year before, my quote-unquote senior night was against Cincinnati. So that had left a sour taste in my mouth, to say the least. I was ready to go and do the best thing I could for our team, and was ready for my number to be called that game, and fortunately it wasn't, but I brought energy on the sidelines the best way I could, and everyone wanted to take out their frustrations on the Cows that game because we really needed it. Yeah, you're right. I don't think a lot of people can say they were 5-0 against USF, but it's a good feeling to have, knowing that you can beat your rival school any day of the week, no matter what the season is.
Well, there's a cool video of you running down the field with the trophy in your hand. How heavy is that thing, and were you ready to drop it at any point?
So Alex Ward, our long snapper, had warned me before the game started, hey, at the end of the game, if you end up getting that trophy first, heads up, it's top heavy. So I'm going to set the scene for you real quick. If the official does we need a official review, they're doing that whole thing. They said, okay, he's down. It's a sack. There's a 10-second runoff. The game is over. Everyone's freaking out. I want to say the 25 or 30 closest to our locker room. I go, yeah, I'm cheering. I look around like, where's the trophy? My eyes get wide. I'm like, where's the trophy? I look in the corner by the locker room. It's not there. So I'm like, it's on the other side. I bolt downfield. Probably the fastest I've ever ran on that field, honestly. In tow behind me, about 5 yards away, Alex Ward had the same idea I had. We run to the table, and I slam my helmet down on the table, and I lift it up. I'm like, oh, this thing is top heavy. So for like a brief second and a half, I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to drop this. But as soon as I got a grip on it and then flipped the sign around to show everyone like, hey, this is us, and then ran back onto the field, I knew I wasn't going to drop it.
That could have been an embarrassing moment if you did.
Yeah, I know. I have 3 different camera angles. Some guy has it from the fans in the stand.
Yeah.
Michael Kubliali was on the sidelines recording me. And then one of our media people was also following behind me and Ward with one of their little cameras on a. So it was fun to say the least.
Is that like a badge of honor for you seniors to go get the trophy? Is there like a competition amongst all of you, like who's going to be the one to go grab it?
No, but it's kind of like we generally only want seniors to grab that trophy just because it's like hey, this is the last time you're going to be able to see this trophy.
Yeah,
it's time. Like, so have a senior grab it. I think it was who was it last year who grabbed it? I think it might have been Sam Jackson, offensive lineman, that we weren't sure if they were going to come back. So they last year, and then I just happened to beat Ward to the trophy this year.
Do you guys do the same thing with the civil conflict? The civil conflict trophy? There's no fight to go see who grabs that one, or against UConn?
The funny part is we forgot that trophy existed. I'm not gonna lie. and the funny part is I'm gonna tell this story, and I don't know if Eric DeSalvo is gonna get mad at me for telling this story, but after the first civil conflict trophy, when we left it at UConn, we had completely forgotten about it. Eric DeSalvo apparently had found out that a UConn donor had the trophy in their collection since that 2016 game, I believe, that was at UConn. And they had it in their show with them since like 2019. We got it back, I believe, in like early 2020, in time for like the UConn game that year. And then we didn't have the UConn game that year. So to have it come back was just hilariously funny to us because everyone thought it was fake. But that was a legitimate trophy from the original civil conflict.
Yeah, because people were bringing up pictures of the original one and this one. They were pointing out the differences. So you're telling me it's the real one? I'll believe you.
Yeah, that's what Eric DeSalvo told us, who's our social media coordinator. Which I believe him. He has never led me wrong, at least yet.
All right, so you get your final game of your career. It's against the Florida Gators in the Gasparilla Bowl. Leading up to that game, you guys talk about how important this game is for the program, the future of the program, being able to beat the flagship school like this?
We, at least from a D-line perspective, we weren't really too concerned that like, oh, this is a flagship game. We were like, they've been talking smack to us since 2017. We got to show them what we were about. And to say it was the perfect opportunity because they were going to feel like, oh, woe is me, we're down on our luck. Any given day, any team can win, no matter if the best coached team in the entire world. So we were just like, we don't care what happens. We're going to come in playing like they're the USF, and we're going to just take it to them.
You guys punished them. I mean, you dominated on the line of scrimmage, both sides, and really there was no answer. They could say nothing after that game because of the way it went. It's not like we won on a lucky play or a bad call. We dominated them, especially in the second half of that game.
Yeah, and once our I think it was once the Coach Malzahn said that entire week leading up, if we get them in the fourth quarter and it's a tight game, we got this, because we were ready to show what we got. We were ready to make sure that in the fourth quarter, if it was a tight game, we had it in the bag.
Well, obviously, Austin, unfortunately, teams are like their families, and with families, there's drama, there's soap operas, and there's a few different moments this season. Obviously, the transfer portal has brought in a lot of new different wrinkles and elements to the team. Obviously, UCF had a few. One guy obviously left in the middle of the season before the bowl game. Obviously, Dylan announces, and shortly after, Tatum Bethune announces, a bunch of other guys. As a team, how much of the distraction is the transfer portal? How much is that something you guys talk about? Are there guys who, like, you kind of know, like, hey, I think this guy may be thinking about transferring? How much? Because we in the media, we in the fan base, we make it a big deal, right? Every day we're flipping out over who's in the portal and who's not in the portal. Do you guys, even as players, is that even part of your conversation?
I mean, with coaches, not really too much, unless it's like a coach talking about someone we might have played with in high school is in the transfer portal, and like they want their opinion on him. And it's like, yeah, he's good. He's really like he's really about it, or nah, he's not really fit for us. Like in that sort of context, we'll talk to our coaches about that. But usually it's just a player to player thing. Like, oh, did you hear so and so's in the portal? Oh man, that team's losing that really good player in there. And then there was like a couple guys on our team where like we wish them the best of luck in their next school and their next hope. I know they're making the best decision for themselves and their families, so I can't blame them. They're my brothers. If they ever call me to help them with something, I will be there the best I can. It's just unfortunately with the transfer portal and how the rules are now, it's just kind of crappy in a perspective, to say the least.
Is it a distraction, or is it something where as a leader, were you hearing guys talk about it too much? We're like, hey, let's just focus on playing the game.
We didn't really hear it too much, to say the least, and it only wasn't until like after the season that we're like, okay, this transfer portal thing's like a real thing. With DG transferring out, he was trying to make the best decision for himself because he thought not to say he tried to pull a McKenzie, but I think that's what he was trying to go for, but he didn't explain with the team. We might have explained to a couple guys, but didn't explain to like the whole team, like, hey, I'm transferring out because of this reason. But I think in retrospect, that's what he was trying to do, or at least trying to make it look like. He's still a football player. He's still my brother, at least. I don't want to ever talk ill about him. The way he went about it, again, it's just something I don't agree with, but he's at a different place now, trying to make a new impact, and I'm welcoming for him to actually do what he's got to do.
Well, I'm not sure if this is breaking news to you, but he's actually at a new welcome play. So tonight he actually changed and went to Oklahoma. So
I saw that
from UCLA to Oklahoma now. Obviously, Levy's there, and obviously they had a connection. I assume that wasn't surprising to you.
No, it really wasn't. I think I saw it earlier today, but I'm actually happy for him because him and Levy were, at least from my perspective, really close and really like able to mesh well and work together well. So I'm really happy for him and I really hope he does well at Oklahoma. Maybe he can do better than Spencer Rattler was their quarterback at the beginning of the season, who's now at South Carolina.
Yep.
Hopefully he does better than him. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he does there.
What about NIL? That's the other thing people talk a lot about, right? So name, image, and likeness. It's a new thing this year. You are listed as a Barstool athlete, so you're somebody who obviously had a chance to dip your hand in there a little bit. How much do you guys talk about NIL? What does a Barstool athlete mean, by the way? How much is that a topic of conversation?
Okay, so I'm just going to go with Barstool athlete first. So Dave Portnoy, I'm not sure if he's the CEO of Barstool or it could be completely wrong, but he's a very well-known figure within Barstool itself. When NIL hit, he was approached by, I believe, a volleyball athlete. Was like, hey, I want to be the first Barstool athlete. And there's really no incentive, quote unquote, of being a Barstool athlete outside of you get recognized with a very, very well-known media corporation now. But you signed up on a Google form. They got your address. They got a picture of you. They used to do announcements on their Barstool athlete Instagram page and Twitter page. And they'll send you a jacket, a shirt, and some sweatpants. They're honestly the most comfortable things I've ever actually worn. But like, it's some cool stuff. NIL is just kind of a weird, like in my perspective, because even though I've been on the team for 5 years, I really wasn't like a household name, except for Jan and Britt know me, and a couple people. Like I want to say every fan that I've had an interaction with, they know me, but outside of that, my name's really not that big. So I wasn't really too concerned about having an impact with NIL. I would have liked to do like more with it now and thinking back, but a lot of people don't really talk about it unless we talk about people getting these like big things like we call it the quarterback from Ohio State who then played a couple games and transferred over to Texas. He signed
Quinn Ewers, I think his name is, or Ewers.
I believe that. He signed apparently a 6-figure deal or something there and left.
Yeah,
I can't do that, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of money in my pocket to pay off my student loans.
But is it something guys are focused on? Where guys like in the locker room talking about like, hey, I'm gonna try to get this deal, or hey, I'm gonna try to get this thing working? Was that? I mean, I'm sure it was always kind of happening, but now that it's out front, was that something that was just a because as fans, we're assuming the worst is going to happen, right? Schools with big money and big time donors and deep pockets are going to get all the good kids because they're going to give them these 6-figure deals, and schools that don't have that aren't going to have that luxury. So we're all here freaking out that we think it's going to completely change the landscape of college athletics. You were in the locker room. Do you think that is that realistic in your opinion, or do you think I'm overblowing that?
I think you might be overblowing that in some perspective, but from our locker room, it was more like, hey. They weren't trying to actively go after these brands. The brands were coming to them. And they're like, hey, does anyone know anything about this brand or that brand? I'm trying to know more about what they're about before I agree to anything. And it was more like hey, this might be cool or that might be cool, but I don't really want to like work with them if I don't know anything about them, kind of deal. And we would actively tell each other about anything that we were thinking about doing, just to be more open and upfront and get other opinions, but nothing crazy like, oh, I'm going to transfer and go to this school because they're already offering me like money and stuff like that. That didn't happen, at least in our locker room. I can't attest to any other school in the nation, but at least in ours, that wasn't going on.
All right, so we had an idea. You tell me if you think this is going to work for next year. Mike and I are going to try to sponsor somebody. We're going to try to sign somebody up. You're going to be an official Sons of UCF brand rep. We'll send you hats. We'll make sweatpants if that's what's needed. We'll do that. And the only thing we ask is the person comes on the show like maybe once every couple of weeks, does a 15, 20-minute interview, tells us what's going on, talks about the game, and they're our official Sons of UCF representative. Is that a good idea, or will nobody ever sign up for that?
Honestly, you might want to talk to some of the walk-ons we have, because I think they would love that, just so that way they get in the media a little bit more, because everyone always sees like the scholarship guys. Yeah. Everyone always sees them, but the walk-ons are the unspoken, like, and unwritten backbones of the football team. Like, we do a whole bunch of the dirty work and almost get no recognition whatsoever. And after being a walk-on for 5 years, if y'all would have approached me in July when NIL dropped, I would have agreed to you in a heartbeat, because it's what we think is all right. But with coming on a podcast during season, there's a couple of media stipulations you might need to work around. But if it's, I don't see a problem with it, but I think it'd be really cool, and I think you might get someone to agree with it. Say the least.
Do you have a recommendation for next? Do you have anybody on the team that's still there that you can recommend to Mike and I that we should start reaching out
to? Tyler Paul. He already did.
We had Tyler on our show. Yeah, he was doing the Big Man, Big Heart campaign.
He
came on to talk about the stuff he was doing with Brett and Jan.
Yeah, that's what I agree with on that. I think that was a really great opportunity for him and a really good cause to go with. Yeah. He's one of the ones that off the top of my head I would strongly go after. We got I'm trying to think of more off the top of my head, but because Tyler was like 2 lockers down from me, so me and him would always mess with each other. Another specialist, Joe Rahal, he's another snapper. He's worked with Alex's group, or even Alex Ward himself. I think he'd be a good person to talk to, because all the specialist guys I really had a good connection with, or even though Anthony Montalvo is now a former walk-on and on scholarship, I think he'd be another one to talk to, and I think he'd really appreciate the thought. Shoot,
That's almost good leads there.
Hey, almost any of my D linemen might agree to you and come on and be excited to do it.
We had Cam Good on. Cam was really fun. We had a good time with Cam. He had the deal with Candy Shop, I think, West Palm Beach, and he came on and talked about what they were doing there. He was really fun. Oh
no, he's 100% probably he's a lot of fun and a funny guy in and of himself. He's trying to work with he's the Candy Shop guy. He actually knows from I think he was in the DC area originally, where Cam grew up, and he ended up meeting him from a random connection, and then when NIL actually started, I think he started working with him because he's like, hey, we've been friends for a long time. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah.
Austin, so what's next for you? You're sticking around football? You get into coaching, or are you putting that degree to work? What do you want to do next?
So right now I am finishing up my master's program in kinesiology at UCF. I'm in my third semester that starts next week. Right now I have a job working with spinal cord injuries and neurological disorders at the Center of Recovery and Exercise in Altamont Springs, Florida. At the moment, I don't have any interest in coaching, but I am getting my personal training certification and probably my strength conditioning coach certification because I end up wanting to be a coach and probably down the line. But at the moment, I'd like to kind of step away from the sport and go into something that I'm passionate about, and that is really just helping people to get better, or especially in the case of what I'm doing at Core, helping people be able to manage, work with a new sense of normalcy, and help them expand and become the best that they can with the circumstances given to them.
Is that something you always enjoyed studying, or is it something in a football field? You see somebody get hurt one time, and you say, "Oh man, I wish I could help somebody like that." Any stories like that, or no?
My junior year of high school, I tore my left ACL, and then my senior year of high school, I tore my right ACL. So I was in physical therapy for almost a year and a half. I just want to, help people get better. My sister's a nurse. My mom is a school teacher. So I kind of grew up with the influences of you're here to help people. And if you get enjoyment out of that, we're 100% behind you. And luckily with Core, I was able to do a internship in 2019 during the summer. And then I just kept coming back to volunteer. Last summer, I was actually able to be hired as a part-time assistant. And I'm back as a part-time assistant, but going to become a full-time trainer here in a couple months.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, we appreciate your time. You've been really generous. But before you get out of here, we end every interview. We ask what we call rapid fire questions. So these are just random questions. Could be music, movies, sports. You never know what you're going to get. So are you prepared to face these hard? These are going to be the toughest questions. You thought the DG questions were hard. You ain't seen nothing yet. These are going to be the toughest questions we got. Are you ready?
Let's get it going.
All right. It's late night or maybe early morning. You've been out, you're having a good time, and you got the munchies. You want something to eat. What's your go-to spot? Where are you going to get something late night for food?
Wawa.
What are you getting?
They have some really good Chipotle mac and cheese. Okay. Not gonna lie. That combined with either an Arizona green tea or, depending on where I am in the night, a Gatorade and a water.
Hydration is key. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just had my first Wawa sandwich on the way up to the Gasparilla Bowl, and it was pretty good. I've always heard about it. I was pleasantly surprised. All right, I gave you a time machine, and you can go into the past or the future, where would you choose to go? What year do you want to go to, future or past?
I would go past. I'd like to actually visit a couple spots. First off, I'd like to see a speech from President Roosevelt in the 40s, just because he was a very historical person. I'd like to see Martin Luther King Jr. speak at the Capitol in the 60s. I'd like to see the actual first, the legitimate Apollo 11 rocket launch. There's just a whole bunch of spots that I would definitely go to the past to go see.
Awesome. That took a really serious turn, so let's get back to business here. If you took everybody on the UCF team and you guys did a bracket style of arm wrestling, who comes out the champion? Who's the arm wrestling champion of the 2021 UCF team?
Cole Snyder, 100%.
Now, I imagine Cole, he seems like a really nice guy, by the way. Mike and I spent time with his family at the Cows game. Very nice people. I think Cole's going to play dirty. Am I wrong on that? Is he going to kick you under the table, or do you think he's just going to legit, strength?
He's going to legit outpower you. Cole, he seems goofy up front because he really is. But he can flick a switch so quick and be the most serious person ever.
All right, noted.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? And who are you rooting for, I guess? What's your team?
Unfortunately, I don't have a legitimate team. I really root for any of the teams that my former teammates have been on. We still got Traquan on the Saints, and then Gabe up at the Bills. I'm hoping either one of them, honestly.
I think Gabe's got a better shot than Traquan at this point.
It's okay. I don't really pay attention to the NFL too much, but just to check on them, that's the only time.
All right, this is a true or false question for you. So, true or false? You own some DG the brand merchandise.
False.
Just couldn't pull the trigger on a purchase. You just couldn't decide between the butterfly shorts and the fanny pack. I mean, just tough decisions.
I just really didn't care. The thing, like, he came out on not really came out on Instagram, but it popped up on my Instagram feed before NIL was a thing, and I was like, delivered greatness or whatever. And I'm like, nah, this is DG's thing. I don't really care for it. I was like, you go make your money off of other people. I'm not gonna give you, if you want to give me stuff for free, I'm okay, or give me stuff at like a little bit of a discount, sure, but I'm not gonna straight up pay full price for it.
But he didn't hook you guys up. There was no like freebies. There was no like promo code.
He hooked up a couple guys, like I think Jay Flash, because they did like a couple photo shoots with him. But outside of that, nah. If he didn't roll with you in his group, he didn't give you anything.
So Mikey Keene doesn't have an air freshener in his car?
He might have an air freshener, but it's probably not from DG.
All right, one of the most disappointing things that happened all season, before the Gasparilla Bowl, they canceled the belly flop contest, which was supposed to happen that week. Now, I don't know if you were going to be entered in that thing, but who on the team do you think would have won the belly flop contest?
Ooh, that's a good question there. If Ed wanted to do it, he'd probably win. If Cole wanted to do it, he'd probably win. I'm gonna go with Cole again on that one, because Cole's got enough, especially if he's going off a diving board, a couple good hops, and he goes probably about 10 feet in the air and then just flat.
We had Cam Good as even money.
I had Cam Good as the favorite on
that. See, I've seen Cole do a belly flop before. I haven't seen Cam do a belly flop. That's the thing that just holds me back from Cam. It'd probably be a good matchup between those two. I kind of need to see it in a bracket style before I actually make a full decision.
All right, I got like two more for you. So I'm dying to ask somebody this question. What did you guys call Big Cat? Did you call him Big? Did you call him Cat? How did you refer to him when you actually want to speak to him?
We would call him Big Cat, or we would call him we'd be like, "Hey, Cat," to try to get his attention. I don't think a lot of guys on the team knew his real name at all, because I think on our website roster it said Big Cat Brian. Didn't even
it does, yeah.
So I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna play to it. So he sat right next to me in team meetings, so me and him were always talking. It was funny. I just call him Big Cat or Cat sometimes. That's pretty much it.
All right. Are you able to do a Gus Malzahn impression? And if not, who does the best one on the team?
I have too much respect for that man to try to do an impression. I'm not going to be completely honest with you. Who does the best one? Josh McMullen. He does the best. I think he probably does the best Gus Malzahn impression out of everyone on the team. Josh McMullen's actually really, really good at impressions for no reason. It's just a weird talent he has, but it fits him so well. He can make anyone laugh going off any impression. Yeah, I'm not going to try to attempt one because I, again, have too much respect for Coach Malzahn.
You've been there 5 seasons now. You've been a part of the program. You've been a part of many big games. If you could go back and just be a part of any game one more time, what game would you pick?
Be a part of any game one more time. I've never thought about that off the top of my head. But I'd probably go back to that South Carolina State game again and make that tackle.
Get that wrap up finally. Well, you can put it this way. Maybe you engaged those guys so that Nate Evans could come through and make the play. So you took some pressure off. Nate Evans owes you a tackle is what I heard you say.
I'm going to pick that game just because it's that would have been my been a really good birthday present for my grandfather, especially that day. But there's really too many games to be like, oh, I wanted to experience this one moment one last time, or this one moment one last time. I'd really like just to go back and experience those times between the games in the off season, during winter workouts, during summer workouts, because I made a lot of friendships, grew a lot of connections, and I love those guys, and I'm gonna miss not being able to do that with them again. But I can always count on them if I need a little help. So
well, let me ask the reverse. Is there a game you want to forget forever?
Yes. BYU Boca Bowl, 100%. Forget that one forever.
Fair enough.
It was that or Navy, I think. The obvious answer.
Yeah, it's a pretty two top tier games. I'd like to forget if that was possible.
Tulsa maybe in there somewhere too.
Not as bad as that Navy one this past year, and then BYU. Just personal opinion on that one.
Beer doesn't work, by the way, because I drank a lot of beers during those games. I still remember them. It's just as bad. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, last one for me: chicken wings, ranch or blue cheese?
Ooh. I'm gonna go basic. I'm just gonna go ranch because I've had some really bad experiences with blue cheese personally.
Yeah,
like even when it's not on wings, it's just it gets a little tricky on that case. I mean it's like half and half almost.
Yeah, speak your truth. I'm with you, Austin. Speak your truth. Mike's a big blue cheese guy. He condemns anybody who's anti-blue cheese, but speak your truth. I'm with you on this 100%.
Yeah.
It's the right answer.
Mike. I'm going ranch on that.
That's a big disappointment.
It happens, but look, it's been a blast. We had a good time catching up with you, and obviously you've been a part of the program for so long, and I think you mentioned not everyone knows your name, but the true diehard fans know your name and know the things that you sacrificed for the program. So we appreciate you taking some time to join us and taking us down memory lane, and obviously we hope to catch up with you real soon. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, go Knights.
Charge on.